in Port Harcourt, in and around Port Harcourt. And it's not like when there's a genuine call for fire response, right? He will be around. He may be at home with his wife, with his children. There are a few volunteer fire servicemen. In fact, in some countries, right, you have volunteer services, fire departments that are solely run and operated by volunteers. Solely run. What people do is that they make contributions, organizations, make donations to this department, to that particular fire department that they know is particularly run by volunteers. Now, they don't run directly, by, the government, or they don't run by the government, whether state or local or whatever. But the government oversees their activities, all right? So you have both full-time and volunteer fire service. So you have some fire services stations, right? That will have a full-time fire. Maybe the chief will be the full-time person, probably stationed there by the government. But the volunteers come in regularly. Some of them are volunteering their services full-time, maybe for 2 or 3 years. Some maybe part-time. And they receive some form of pay, all right? They are also known as call firefighters in the US. So sometimes when a fire is that bad, like you've had forest fires, in parts of the Midwest and also in Europe, when you had the Greek fires. Remember that? Yeah. They call on these people, the reserves. Please come, we need you right now. Question is, how many of you will be willing to be volunteer fire servicemen in Akogutoru, in Emoa, in Woji, or even in Rumosi? Let's talk for development, shall we?
The views and opinions shared in this program do not represent the position of Nigeria Info FM. Nigeria Info, let's talk.
Stimulating and insightful conversations. Hello, Port Harcourt. 92.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
All right, so let's talk. 017-923-0002, 0817923-0007, 0817923-0002, 0817923-0007. On Facebook and on X, it's Twitter. Facebook and on X at Nigeria Info PH, at Nigeria Info PH. That's where you'll find us. Talking about firefighting this morning, and I'm asking a question that someone made a suggestion about, and I don't know if you agree with this. And those of you who are probably policymakers, you may want to pay close attention. Should community firefighting be promoted? That's the question. 92.3. Good morning. Hello, Port Harcourt.
Yeah, Mr. Zion, good morning to you.
Good morning, please.
We should not adopt that process because Inferno has never been part of us as Africans.
Really?
In Port Harcourt, in Nigeria, especially the major cities have recorded
fires.
Infernos.
Mm-hmm.
Go and check out, they're all politically motivated.
Really? The fires at Lalipo Market was motivated, Balogun Market politically?
Somebody was paid to do that.
Okay, so wait, now hold on. So whether they were paid or not, are you saying that it wouldn't be good to have quick responses, particularly, let's look at River State, where where it's been very well documented that the State Fire Service, is very under managed or underfunded, and then people are crying to IOCs.
Our cultures and our tradition. What we practice, what is happening to us. Do you know that today most of the infernos you see is either they are being, number one, politically motivated, or somebody has tempered the original wiring process? Mention all the fires in River State. Just one, that they told you categorically clear that they have investigated, and this was the total result of what caused the inferno. If it is not politically motivated to accuse or allege electrical faults, please let us not stress our community people. We are not used to inferno. We will never adopt that locally. And the Ministry of Special Duties, what are they doing? The Commissioner for Special Duties, Minister of Special Duties, where is the money projected to your department? Who have asked that money? Where are they going to? Special duties in charge of fire service. When last do a Nigerian community or Nigerian as a country is employing people to become or is recruiting to become fire servants? Mention one day. From 1960 to this, mention one day. So there is how corruption.
But hold on, Zion. Hold on, Zion. Now, whilst for the sake of this conversation, let's agree with you that many of the infernos have been, sabotaged, right? Does that still negate that people lost properties? Even though it was, let's agree, like I said, they were politically done. It was what you call it. Intentionally started. Does that still negate the fact that people needed help?
Jude, if any market you people notice that a strange body, you people deal with that person, they will not be found in that market. On your street, if you notice a strange attitude of somebody coming to the house late at night, driving cars you guys not expect, know that something is wrong on your street, and check the quality of the street and the delicate issue of your street. How many people is putting through there? I'm talking to you this morning. I would have come and shout and praise the government or accuse the government. But I'm growing old now. It's time for me to start speaking the truth. So that any day I meet my Creator, I can be able to explain to Him what I did here on earth. Traditionally, mention your community. You have been mentioning you are from Bayelsa, somewhere in Bayelsa, right? May I ask your mother, when last did the house caught fire in our community growing up as a child?
So, but does that mean that time, whilst different from this time where you have, what do you call it, more people and all of that? Are you saying that fires cannot start?
You just answered the question. More people. Who are these people? Mixed community. Some are lazy and jobless, idle, looking for free money. So the moment they find that they are big in market, somewhere in Odisho, what will they do? They will ask that person, we want to make here our political structure. Go and set fire in that market. We'll come and set small shop there. We will give you 20 slots. So we'll make you the leader to burn that place.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Zion doesn't believe that we should promote community fire service. In as much as people talk about community policing, we shouldn't do that. It says, and I quote, "It is not traditional." Interesting. All right, interesting message here. A WhatsApp 009030641. We're talking about firefighting, and I'm asking, should community firefighting be promoted? Should community firefighting? People have been talking about community policing over the years. We should get back to the community, to the grassroots to do this. Community leaders should be the ones in charge of administrating laws, norms, in the areas they know the people know them, so they can quote mediate interesting issues between neighbors in those communities. Fine. But now that we are in the 21st century, where we have more modernization, more vehicles, more cars, and things like that, the fire services are needed. I know I know there was a time when people complained, or there was a complaint about a fire in one of the communities, not within the Port Harcourt metropolis, but just outside. All right, and that happened. And also, when we get to have fires here within Port Harcourt itself, you get to hear the very vexing story of no water or no truck. Maybe this is an alternative.
Stay with us. Nigeria Info will be
these conversations to you. Once again, it's a Merry Christmas and a Happy Boxing Day. Yes, Christmas was yesterday. Today's Boxing Day. It's still a public holiday, and I'm very sure some of you are enjoying the time with your family, or if you're alone, that makes sense. Recharge, relax, and then you re-strategize for the coming week and indeed for the year. I'm talking about the year ahead. All right. Now, if you're just joining us, we're talking about volunteer fire services. And I'm asking, should community fire services and volunteer fire services in particular, should they be promoted? Should they be encouraged? Now, I don't know the modalities. I'm not the one promoting this. No, I'm not saying that this is the way to go. But if we have, in recent years, embraced, the idea of community policing, and even though it's even in the Constitution talking about vigilante services and vigilante, groups, all right, there's not much that has been said about community firefighting, all right? Now, we're using Port Harcourt, River State as a case study. Now, imagine if there is a major fire, right? Even if there is a fire to a small hut or a block of apartment in Emowa, right? The first call that they would like to make is to a fire service operator. Unfortunately, there's not one number for it, an emergency number that anybody really knows. It's not like you have a 911, 999, 888, 111, 121. I think 12 something was working. 222 was working one time. But, it's not available. So you don't have to memorize, the state fire service number or the federal fire service number. I think I have it saved somewhere. And when we get calls, I have to go through it and then offer that number to whomever it is looking for it. Now, Emoha, right? Just down the road here, just after the Choba Bridge, right? Emoha. Now, imagine state fire service or the federal fire service having to come all the way from, where they are in town to address a fire scenario in Emoha. Give or take, that trip is probably about anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes. This year, there was a fire at this timber market near Rumokini, where we are, just not so far from where we are, right? There was a fire. Unfortunately, that day, the fire truck, at least I saw the fire truck come through. But that fire truck didn't get there until about 25 or 30 minutes when the fire initially became, out of control. When the, in quote, inferno, reached that size where people were fleeing and, shops were being burnt. It took a while. But what if there was a small fire service station, right? Somewhere outside Alakaya Junction. And that fire service station had people like you, James, Chika, Yangofori, all volunteering your services, maybe full-time or part-time, to help fight fires. What if that was the case? And then maybe the very big and dangerous fires like you had when jetties were burnt, or when you had, petrol stations, engulfed in flames. Maybe there was a gas leak and there was an explosion. Then when you have those big fires, then you would have the, in quotes, specialized, well-trained professionals come through. What if that's the scenario? You see, in Argentina, you have volunteer fire departments. In Australia, in fact, throughout Australia, there are many volunteer firefighting agencies that are set up by, listen to this, individual states or territories. In Austria and Germany, you have volunteer fire departments, right, that provide 97% of the firefighting service in Germany. 97% volunteers. Some of them are part-time, some of them are full-time, but more often than not, most of these groups usually get funded by private groups. People come, okay, we're going to give this money to these people. Support organizations. The same thing in Canada. Right? Now, for Canada, whilst you have wholly volunteer services in Canada found mainly in the rural areas and the remote areas of Canada, right? They're still found in the municipalities, the urbanized area. For example, Kingston in Ontario, population about 130,000 people, right, has about 10 stations operated, right, by the Kingston Fire and Rescue Services. 3 are staffed with career firefighters. The 2 are composite, while 5 are wholly volunteer services. Wholly. But as we talk about this, I have to ask myself, and as a Nigerian, as a Rivers resident, how many of us would really want to volunteer to play firefight? It's not like what we see in TV where they have big helmets and stuff like that. How many of us would really want to do that? Can do that? But then, if we got to the point where we have young men, and in some cases young women, who would willingly volunteer their services to, in quote, vigilante services, with some stipends coming through some means, why shouldn't there be volunteer fire services in Rivers State? Once again, talking for development.
The views and opinions shared on this program do not represent the position of Nigeria Info FM. Nigeria Info, let's talk.
All right, so the numbers are good. Let's have a conversation. 08179230002, 08179230007, 08179230002, 08179230007. At Nigeria Info PH, at Nigeria Info PH is where you find us on Facebook and on X. At Nigeria Info PH, at Nigeria Info PH is where you find us on Facebook and on X. We're talking about, interesting, almost every conversation we had today has been about fireworks, and now firefighting. Once again, I'm asking, should community fire services or firefighting be encouraged? Should it be promoted? Particularly in these parts of Nigeria where we've had a history of fires. Weirdly, how many of you remember, it was 2020 or 2021, where there were a lot more fires in Port Harcourt, recorded fires in Port Harcourt, that we needed, interventions of the fire trucks or whatever. There were more here than in the north. There were fires in Sokoto, don't get me wrong, but there were more recorded that year. Wait, I think it was 2021, right? It was very, very interesting year. All right, let's get to read messages now. WhatsApp 0809 0306416. Now, we have a message from Anonymous. It says, who will bear the cost of insurance, training, and medical testing for these volunteers? What happens when a volunteer is caught between warring political or community factions who decide to set fires or to pass a message to make things difficult for others? What about when a volunteer is doing their paid job or their legitimate endeavor and there is a fire? They should leave what they do and go play hero for what won't even pay them? The fact that there's even a need for community policing is a shame on the Nigerian police force. The government should do the work required after they fought so hard and shamelessly to enter certain positions. They should not expect ordinary citizens, especially without the funding or proper training or even structure, to carry certain burdens. Interesting view. So the government should do more. But like I read out to you, and have about 8 or 10 countries, right, that have some form of volunteer fire services. Right? You know how we talk about, the government cannot do everything. People need to contribute, blah, 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 blah. This is one of them. Isn't it? I don't know. What does June know? Anyway. 017-923-0002, 017-923-0003, and 017-923-0007. France. In France, 80% of the firefighters are volunteers. 80% of the firefighters in France are volunteers. Make of that information what you will. In Israel, the volunteer firefighters function alongside paid firefighters in the Israel Fire and Rescue Services, right? Adult volunteers work either out of the fire stations in the same vehicles as the paid firefighters or independent units that operate out of their own fire trucks. And the young volunteers, ages between 15 to 18, work only out of the stations. That's Israel. I've told you about France. Let's go to South America, all right? There's people where you say, okay, maybe it's more like Nigeria, all right? Okay? Now, in Peru, the bomberos are all unpaid volunteers that extinguish fire, clear hazardous materials, provide aid and assistance during natural disasters, and transport the sick to hospitals. In a 150-year tradition, citizens apply to enter a training program. They must pay for with their own money. During training, they are taught how to put out fires, provide first aid, and use specialized equipment. Upon successful completion of the program, they enter a probation period where they have to prove that they are capable of dealing with real-life emergencies. That's Peru, ladies and gentlemen. That's Peru. Once again, the question really is, should it be promoted here? I'm not saying what the Peruvians are doing, what the French are doing, what the Canadians are doing is what we must do, but it seems as though there is a common practice of having, once again, volunteers. Volunteers. Good morning, Jude. When there's an inferno, people come out in communities to put out the fire. Community firefighting has been with us from time immemorial. It just hasn't been formalized. Very true. Very true. However, we can't compare the African environment to what is happening in more advanced countries. People think differently here. The government should live up to expectations. They let there be a partnership between the state government and the LGAs so that firefighting can be decentralized. A fire outbreak years ago in the Lekaya Estate, years and years ago, we survived. And Mr. Moki is very correct. Neighbors jumped over the fence with buckets of water to put out the fire. The roof was on fire. In fact, as a baby, I wasn't a baby. I was about, I would say 8 or 9, right? I didn't go to secondary school then. Yes, I was about 8 or 9, right? I remember seeing them climbing ladders, right, to pour water on the roof. Pour, bring more. It was a very interesting time because don't forget, those days, a lot of people don't have boreholes. They didn't have boreholes. But, they were going around getting water and eventually the fire was put out. So, if that could happen, and I think that also happens in a lot of fires, that people rush around with their buckets of water. Yeah, but you see, with the volunteer service, there's going to be a truck. People can move through. But Mr. Moki is very, very correct. Traditionally, when something like that is happening, the community come to aid. 017-923-0002. 017-923-0003. WhatsApp, Telegram, available on 0809-030-6416. 0809-030-6416. Perez is on the line. Perez is speaking to us from Oyigbo. Perez, good morning to you. Welcome. Compliments of the season.
Good morning, Jude.
Good morning, Perez.
Yes, I've been listening to you. You are doing a nice job.
Welcome.
But let me come in. When I was growing up, I noticed that there was Ministry of Works in all the local government. That they take care of streets, bypasses in the local government, but these days, nowhere. And in those days, I noticed that there was also a department of the fire service in the local government. But these days, none of those things are existing in any local government. All they know to do now is to collect money from the state and share. Nothing is going on. The chairmen are not doing anything, and so on. Now, when governments are shy from their responsibilities, is it individual that will take on the government responsibilities? Yes, governments are supposed to tell us, to show us the way first before. Now we talk of those northern areas, we talk about Europe. Europe, the paper hours. Yeah, ordinary job. You will work for 30 days for them to pay you is a problem. Which time will you have to go? To go and volunteer yourself to fight fire when you don't have money?
Those are real life issues.
It's not what we should even think of because it's not going to work here.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Junior is on Bonny Island. A compliments of the season to you, Junior. Welcome.
Yeah, good morning, Jude.
Good morning, please.
Yeah. The problem we really have in Nigeria is that nothing works in Nigeria.
It's not exactly true.
Already, we are all volunteers to firefighting because the people from everywhere come out to support. I don't know if you understand.
I understand that view.
So we are all volunteers. But the problem is now, when you set up such an organization here in Nigeria, one person will come out of it, try to use it to enrich his own self, or use it to embezzle public funds. Because if you set up such an organization, you also need funds to provide like the trucks, training for the personnel, and so on and so forth. Who takes care of all of this? When you start such organization now, you see those at the top. It will turn a political appointment. And the people who will be in charge of it will use it to enrich themselves, not to carry out the real purpose in which that organization is being formed in Nigeria. That is why you won't see anybody come out to support such things. Where you see people who come out to support it, the moment they hear that they are paying so amount involved in it,
I see what you mean.
Come out. Firefighting is a well-paid job in Nigeria and also outside Nigeria because the risk involved in it.
Yeah.
Most of them do have life insurance. Are you there, Junior?
I'm listening to you, Junior. I'm listening to you, please.
Yeah. So, but in Nigeria, nothing works. The last caller talked about we used to have Ministry of Works in all the local government. Asking, are they not still there? They are still there. There is a supervisor for work in my local government. In all the local government, what are they doing? They don't even see a dime for themselves becoming the one that will use to do any work. Because the people at the top, the organs at the top, have already collected everything for themselves and for their children and yet unborn. You see what is happening in Nigeria. That is why nothing works in Nigeria. Before, when I was a kid, you see councillors carry out projects. Today, how many of them goes out carry out any project? No one, because they don't even see the money. They only get nothing but their salaries every month. You see? So, Jude, my brother, they compare Nigeria with all these countries where they mention, so sometimes they make me laugh.
Well, but that's how we talk about developing. Because if your neighbor has built 3-story building, you will look at it and say, but can't I do it? Shouldn't I try and do like this? That's the aim. Just the same way, it will shock you, Junior, that I've met people who have come to Nigeria and they say, this kind of thing is existing in Africa? Let's go and do it. One of my friends who visited Abuja for the first time, she was looking at everywhere like she was in Obodo Oyibo, and she couldn't believe that this was an African city. So yes, people need to look.
Let me tell you something, Ajit. If you come into the residential area of the Nigerian LNG here, you see the environment, the things are organized and everything. I was opportune to work with one guy. He has been in Bonny from about 20-something years ago. He came back again. He normally stays in the area when he comes around. We visited the local community, Bonny. The man said, Bonny is still the same thing 20-something years ago when he visited this town.
Wow.
No difference. So, my brother, what are we saying? Don't we have leaders? They spend their vacations overseas. They see these things overseas. Do they want to take those things to their community? Some of them never come back home. They only come when they come to have meetings to share the money and they go back to Port Harcourt and fly back to Abuja or UK or America where they base. So, my brother, it won't work in Nigeria. You're only just talking. After talking, everything dies here. It won't go anywhere.
Well,
that's my own opinion, my brother.
All right, Junior. Thank you very much. Well, we've had conversations that did not die here and gave birth to resolutions. Let's see. Why not? On WhatsApp, this one here says, Jude, the people that went to hang a signage on behalf of a church that got electrocuted, what did the church that sent them do for their families? Please, let's not even consider the idea of volunteer fire service just because it works in other countries. There are reasons it works in other countries. Maybe. So what are those reasons? And if we can study them, if we can harness them, can we replicate them? We'll put our brakes here on the conversation. I hear the rice and stew still being doled out, but what's even better than rice and stew? Well, rice and stew and football. Later on today, the Sports Gang will be telling you stories as we have Boxing Day clashes all over Europe. Particular of interest for those of you who are here would be the English Premier League. Newcastle seeking to break the bad run of losses. Will they do well today? We'll find out. Liverpool will also be trying to get top of the table later on today. All of this and more, you will get those informations and also the coverage right here on 92.3 Nigeria Info. So tune in from 7 p.m. as the extra gang will be bringing you big gist. Oh, by the way, I heard that some people did things yesterday with chickens. My God will judge all of you that did not give me chicken yesterday. Every single one of you. Judge you people. Have yourself a wonderful day. Oh, yes, that's true. You go and buy ball and fish. I bought ball and fish, by the way, 2 days ago. Would you believe that? Anyway, good morning, people.
Talk radio. 92.3. Talk radio. #1 talk